Everyone says the ocean has no memory, but what if the beach does? What if it remembers you? What if it watches you? I was 19. Me and my girlfriend Leah had just wrapped a brutal semester and needed to breathe. Her cousin offered up a beach house down in Wildwood. We packed a bag, bought some cheap wine, and just disappeared for the weekend. No parties, no drama. Just two tired kids trying to remember what peace felt like. The beach near her cousin's place, weirdly empty. No lifeguards, no joggers, just sand. Miles of it. That first night, it was perfect. Blanket on the sand, stargazing, half a bottle of wine. I remember looking up at the sky and thinking, this is peace. I didn't know it would be the last peaceful night I ever had on a beach. It started subtle. Around 1 a.m., Leah sat up fast. "Did you see that?" she whispered. I didn't, but I followed her gaze to the edge of the dune. A tall, crouched shape, like someone kneeling, watching us. I grabbed my phone, flicked on the flashlight. Nothing. The dune was empty, clean. But Leah didn't lie about that stuff. I remember her face, dead serious. We shook it off, kinda. But something about the air had changed. The sound of the waves, off, like the tide had forgotten how to breathe. The next morning, our phones were off. Like, off. Not dead, not frozen, just black. Then Leah's powered on by itself. It had a new app on it. Neither of us had downloaded it. It was called Tide Log. When she opened it, there was a map of the beach. No GPS, no names. Just 3 blinking red dots. One was right over our heads. We deleted it, or thought we did. Later that day, we were walking back from a cafe and passed the dune again. And I swear, for a split second, I saw someone halfway buried in the sand. Not lying down, just still, watching. We stayed inside that second night, just watched trash TV and tried to forget. At 3:12 a.m., I heard knocking, not a bang, not someone pounding. It was deliberate. I peeked out the sliding glass door. Nobody. But in the sand outside, someone had drawn something. 3 jagged circles, interlocking. It looked ancient, like something you'd find etched on driftwood from a shipwreck. That's when I felt it. Not fear, recognition. As if whatever made that symbol already knew us. And wasn't done. 3 days after we got home, Leah sent me a screenshot. It was from a new Instagram account. No followers. 1 post. A blurry photo of us from that first night on the beach. Taken from behind. I panicked. We'd been against the dune. No space behind us. No one was there. No footsteps. No drone. Just us in the sky. But in the corner of the photo, barely visible, was the symbol, etched in the sand. We called the police. They couldn't trace the account, couldn't find any signs of stalking. Leah deleted her socials. I changed phones. But I still get emails. Blank subject lines, no body, just attachments that won't open. They say the beach forgets everything, but every now and then, I hear knocking. I check the windows. No one's there. But sometimes, just sometimes, I see 3 jagged circles drawn into the dust on my car. Maybe the beach doesn't forget. Maybe it just waits. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments. What would you have done? Would you have stayed another night? This happened in the summer of 2019. I was working part-time at a beach rental shack just south of Rockport, Massachusetts. The kind of place where tourists rent paddleboards and overpriced umbrellas. I was 21, broke, sunburned, just trying to make money for the fall semester. And if I'm honest, I liked the quiet out there. That stretch of coast was mostly locals during the week. Wide sand, gray skies, mornings so still, it felt like the ocean was holding its breath. The rental shack was about 200 feet from a lifeguard stand that hadn't been used in years. Too far from the main swimming area. Too much erosion. Still, someone had painted a big X across it in red. pelican crap everywhere, splintered wood. Locals called it the Dead Tower. A joke, at least I thought it was. Week 1. It started with small stuff. I'd arrive at the shack around 7 a.m. to open up, and I'd see fresh sand prints under the stand, like someone had been sitting there. Not footprints exactly, just the impression of someone sitting, facing the shack, facing me. I asked the local lifeguard team about it. They just rolled their eyes, said weirdos come out at night, meth heads, homeless guys. You'll know if it's serious, one of them said, because serious people don't leave footprints. I didn't sleep well that night. Week 2. One morning I showed up, and the stand was clean. Wiped down, sand brushed away. Even the bird crap was gone. But the seat, it was damp, like someone had just gotten up, and on the plank under it, scratched in deep. Not your shift, I told my boss. He brushed it off. Kids, he said. He had cameras installed the next day. One pointed toward the shack, one toward the stand. But here's the thing. The footage never showed anything. The stand was always empty, even when I saw someone in it, with my own eyes. I started carrying pepper spray and I kept my car keys around my neck. Week 3. Friday morning. Overcast. Ocean was flat. Beach was empty. I was unlocking the shack when I heard it. The whistle. Short, sharp, loud. I turned. No one was around, but the lifeguard stand was occupied. A man, sitting perfectly still, facing the ocean, wearing red, old-school lifeguard shorts, no shirt, skin like leather, bald. He didn't move, didn't blink. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" He didn't even turn. I took a few steps toward him, and then he stood up, not fast, not aggressive, just tall, long arms, stiff legs. He stepped off the back of the stand, onto the sand, and walked directly into the dunes, barefoot, disappeared behind the grass. That night, I checked the security feed again. The tape skipped from 6:11 a.m. to 6:17. 6 minutes of nothing. Week 4. I put in my notice, told my boss I was done at the end of the week. He said, "Good. That stand's always been bad news." That was the first time he acknowledged it. I asked him what he meant. He said, "Back in the 90s, one of the guards stationed there drowned." I asked how. He said no one knows. They found his body tied under the stand, hands still gripping the seat, like he drowned in dry air. My last day was a Sunday. I arrived early, 5:45 a.m., wanted to open up, do my shift, and be gone. When I stepped onto the beach, the first thing I saw was someone sitting in the stand again, but not the same man. This one was younger, blonde, tan, looked like me, exactly like me. Same watch, same sunglasses, even the scar on my wrist from a bike accident years ago. I froze. I just stood there breathing hard, and then the figure turned, smiled, and raised its hand, like a wave. That's when I dropped everything and ran, left the shack wide open, didn't even go back for my paycheck. 3 days later, my boss called. He sounded shaken. Said someone had stolen one of the uniforms. Said the camera footage from that Sunday was corrupted. Said the cops found something under the stand. When I asked what, he paused. Said, "It was a body, wearing your name tag, with sand packed in its lungs." I've never gone back to that beach, but sometimes I still get sunburns, on cloudy days, on parts of me that were never in the sun. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still feel wood under my hands, a whistle in my mouth, and my legs dangling over the edge of a lifeguard stand. I don't tell this story often, not because I'm worried about being believed, but because it still makes me feel sick. Not anxious, not creeped out, physically sick. Every detail is burned into my memory. The smell of the sand, the coldness of the floorboards, the exact shape of the sky that night. And it all started with a free weekend at a beach house. The place belonged to my girlfriend's aunt, a crooked little cottage buried behind 2 massive dunes just off the Long Island Sound. It was offered like a gift. She said, "You two need peace. Get away. Just relax." She gave us one warning. Don't walk the path between the dunes after dark. When we asked why, she just shrugged. Locals say weird things happen out there, lights, noises, maybe even people. I've seen shadows myself. She smiled after she said it, like it was nothing. But I remember the way her hands tightened on the keys when she gave them to us. The first day was perfect. No cars, no neighbors, just seagulls, salt air, and the sound of the tide tapping the shore like a metronome. Behind the house, the dunes formed a narrow path straight to the water. It wasn't wide enough for a car, barely enough for two people to walk side by side. Something about it felt too perfect, too symmetrical. The grass on the dune edges was parted like it had been trimmed, unnaturally clean. She wanted to walk it before sunset, so we did. Halfway down the path, the wind just stopped. We couldn't hear the waves anymore. Couldn't even hear the gulls. Just the sound of our own feet crunching in the sand. It was quiet in the way that makes your chest tighten, the kind of silence that waits. At the end of the path, we reached the shore, smooth, untouched sand, stretching out in both directions. That's when we saw it. At first, we thought it was driftwood, but the closer we got, the clearer it became. It was a door, half buried in the sand, wooden, painted white, rusty hinges, no walls around it. Just a standalone door frame sticking up at an angle like it had been pushed out from underneath the ground. It was cracked open. We didn't touch it. We just stood there staring. The wind picked up again, but it was coming from the door. Smelled like seawater and iron. She asked me to leave. We went back the way we came. Neither of us spoke. That night she had a nightmare. Said she dreamt she was buried alive. Couldn't move. Just sand above her, pressing down, filling her mouth. She said she could hear something moving above her, laughing softly, scratching. I told her it was just the place. A creepy house, bad sleep, stress. But the next morning, when we got out of bed, there was sand on the mattress, packed into the sheet creases, cold, damp. The back door was locked. All the windows were closed. We didn't leave that room. Later that day, I went out alone. Needed air, clarity. Told myself I was being paranoid. I walked the path again. In daylight, it looked smaller, but when I reached the end this time, the door was gone. No frame, no hinges, just smooth, perfect sand. But there were footprints, coming from where the door had been, leading straight into the surf. And next to the footprints, a trail, like something had been dragged. That night she was quiet, wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk, just sat on the floor near the sliding glass door that faced the dunes. She said she could still feel sand in her mouth. I checked her tongue. It was bleeding. Her gums were torn, like she'd been chewing on something sharp in her sleep. But there was no blood on the pillow, only on the floor, right where she sat. Around 3 a.m., I woke up alone. She wasn't in the room. The door was open. The air was freezing. I stepped outside and called her name. No answer. I walked the path between the dunes. It wasn't empty this time. About halfway down, I saw her, standing still, barefoot, in her sleep shirt. She wasn't looking at me. She was facing the dunes, arms limp, head tilted, like a puppet, and standing behind her, pressed against her back, was something else. It was tall, thin. Its face looked unfinished. Skin stretched too tight. No eyebrows, no lips. Its arms wrapped around her from behind, hands placed lightly on her ribs. And it was rocking, back and forth, slow, like it was calming her. She didn't scream, didn't flinch, just let it hold her. I froze, and then she turned her head slightly, not toward the thing, not toward the ocean, toward me. She didn't blink, she whispered. I opened the door. The thing behind her bent down, face next to hers, and they both smiled. and then it pulled her backward into the dune. I ran. I ran until my legs collapsed in the grass at the roadside. A fisherman found me the next morning covered in cuts and sand. They never found her. The police searched the dunes for days. They said maybe she wandered into the tide. Maybe she ran away. Maybe she broke down. No one believed what I saw. I barely do. But now I know why the locals warn people. Why that path is still fenced off with broken signs and red twine. Why no one builds on that stretch of land anymore. Because that wasn't just sand. And that door wasn't a dream. And the thing that took her? It's still there. Waiting.